The economic system coming in is not de jure. However, it is substitutive, and it is not the system that exists as it is. And some people are going to have to be removed for the purpose of them not interfering. Look at it that way. It's COVID-19 positive. That's what I have to say about that.
Okay, let me see if there's anything. What website? I think so. Yeah, there are a lot of websites showing indictments. Some Mohez P. March. It is the same in England. The BBC, as a medium, is bought out to put out news in a manner that suits its benefactors. There is so much going on in the justice system that is breaking up families. I'm living it. They say they condemn perjury, yet when it is their agents, things are overlooked. Where is
it's
justice?
Not overlooked.
I have knowledge, yet without support and a clear direction. How do we create change permanently now, and for good?
Aren't we back to what have we been promoting for the last 5 years or so? The restoration of treaty court venues, which is the pre-existing, already existing venue. You know, it's like this, Dr. Naila, we keep thinking that we got to reinvent the wheel because certain activities haven't been in place, not knowing that the platforms have always been there. We have not been participating. You know, and so when people hear us say consular court restoration, they're thinking that we're talking consular court as a venue within itself, when actually it is an aspect of judicial venue, not the venue. Consular court only exists when there's an issue of diversity of citizenship or diversity of nationality. Other than that, it's silent. You know how it's sort of like the light doesn't come on till you flick the switch. Like say, for instance, if you're, as an example, like you have this light over here to take out shadows, right? And say you had a light that's over here that filters for some other purpose when you're filming, but generally you don't use it. But when certain conditions are on, that's when you switch that on. That's how consular court is. So consular court would essentially be international venue of Article 3 courts, dealing with fundamental laws of the land. Because remember, people have to put it in their mind and understand that when you're talking the supreme law of the land, most people keep thinking constitution by itself. No, supreme law of the land is treaties and constitution. Consular court is when the treaty comes into effect. And so all nationals would be dealing with all controversies under treaty law. Are we clear? That's when the court becomes consular. Outside of that, it's just a judicial venue, you see? It's actually not unlike when you study Muslim law and you study international law of ministry. Like say you'd be a minister in a normal state of affairs, right? And then when it becomes civil, now you are a consular. When that venue is over, you're not. The consular role goes to sleep. Now you're a justice at this point. Now, if you're not trained as a consular, you would, if there's an issue that came before you, then you would be a justice. Then you would say, I have no jurisdiction in this matter. This would have to be moved to a consular court. Okay. You need to understand, and I think a lot of people don't understand, it's a jurisdiction of existing judicial venues. It is not just a court where over here is this court and over here, you know, like they have traffic court, stuff like that, which is a fraud court. People think that, I think for a lack of knowledge, that the court sits like, sort of like you say, oh, go to the fish store or go to McDonald's. That venue is solidly that. Well, consular court is only an adjustment of venue in any legitimate Article 3 court under the condition that a controversy between people of foreign state is presented to that court. Then that court becomes a consular court. However, the lack of its existence leaves the people, victim to municipal courts where it doesn't belong, and they keep getting screwed. This is what's been happening to us. And no one told us that we were in incompetent courts and being taken advantage of. You don't belong in that court.
When I had Brother Lamont on the other day, he said that at one point the so-called judge or the administrative clerk said to him that you have been appearing here voluntarily. All the times he had come, so they had told him he was coming. He had been coming
because yes,
but he said, "Well, then I'm free to leave. I'm leaving now." He said, "No, you're here now." So when you said that we're not,
he's telling you, they know they have no jurisdiction.
It's the same thing was happening, say with the census right now.
Exactly.
They're all of these communications begging you to fill it out. Begging you, they're not saying that, they're telling you all the benefits of it, but they're not telling you.
Hybrid European came to my domicile yesterday. They've been coming for like forever, and I remember it must have been about 17 or 18 of those little white and green slips with numbers on them saying that they were here.
That's me. They sent
so
me someone to.
Yesterday I came out. I was and he come run down the street. Oh, because he's talking to the neighbors, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, and started asking me about how many people were upstairs and how many people. I said, "Who are you?" I said, "Clearly European." I said, "First of all, I don't know you. And if you think that I'm going to tell you anything about anything, voluntarily about anything, you're out to lunch. However, since you're here, let me tell you something. Number one, do you know anything about treaty law and constitutional law?" "Well, you know, it's important and the benefits, and we need to know." I said, "First, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I don't agree or consent to be surety for your debt, your foreign debt. So let's get this very clear. Now, if you want to discuss any treaty obligations that you happen to come here standing on my porch for, well, I don't understand, because different people, and my son was telling me some of these things." Stop. Why are you going around asking people about what's in their house, who's in their house, when you don't even know the fundamental supreme laws of the land? What does that tell you about you? And what makes you think I'm going to tell you information, and then you're asking me about the people across the street who lives in there? You must be crazy. However, let me give you some information. Go look up the Organic Act of Congress, 1871, February 2nd. Read it very carefully. Look up the civil orders, letter from Pope Francis to Barack H. Obama. Read it carefully. Look at House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June 5th of 1933. And if you pass this way again, we'll have another conversation. I know you have to hurry up and go look for some more sureties to back your debt, because I know that they're not buying U.S. bonds anymore around the world, and that all the credit windows and the trade windows of the world have frozen up, and you need to create some more bonds. And I know that you're pretending that you don't know what I'm talking about. I know that you absolutely do. No, I don't kind of know it like you're saying. Have you ever heard of Skull and Bones, Knights Columbus, Knights Templars, or Knights of Columbus, Eastern Stars, P2 Masons? Well, yeah, I heard them. So don't act like these people don't know. And don't you think that I don't think that you know, because you do. But we'll both agree that most of our people don't know. And they are not U.S. citizens. They're not stock. And I know that you need stock. That's why you're desperately running around here continuously, day after day, putting slips in people's doors.
They need to just fill it out and put more on there.
That is still stupid, because it doesn't apply to you. You need to know what, it's the fact of not even knowing what it is. The census is so they can create more stock. Now, if you want to agree to be surety, because that's what it does when you sign it, you're agreeing to be surety. Now you restock them. And even though the nations of the earth ain't trading with them no more, they do have a legitimate claim of bond. And you are an estate. And you just empowered them. See, it's not only knowing how to sign certain things, contracts, etc., but even knowing what the swell you're signing. And it's back, isn't it back to earlier, as we're saying, Dr. Naila? These people are members of the Roman Curia, of a private corporation that went bankrupt. And they come to you and ask you to sign on as a surety for them in an instrument that they call a census. Do they say that to people when they ask them to sign? No, let's say, have you heard any of these people who've been traveling with these instruments that they're calling census? Have they been telling these people that you're signing up as surety for our debt so we can put our debt against your estate?
Of course not.
Of course they didn't. But I'm just talking about people who have some knowledge keep signing these things and talking about the way they signed them. It's like saying, you know, when they see, Doc, when they gave me the arsenic, I didn't drink it like this. I drink it like this. Duh.
Many people probably have already filled them out, but if they haven't,
well, guess what?
Maybe they'll
guess
do
what?
The right thing based on the knowledge they're getting.
Guess what? It's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
It isn't what you think it is.
Yeah, they're promoting it. This is how we get benefits and things in your area.
Sure, they do. They get benefits.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. Ask anybody who asked that question, right, Dr. Nail?
Mm-hmm.
Show the ongoing, running, and documented history where these gentrified communities got a benefit other than gentrification.
I think this person, Rosalind Yaba Ellis, saying peace with love. So why the temples were doing it? I'm pissed. So I guess that they had to tell because they're compromised.
All I would say is this. Look at the FBI papers on infiltration and investigation of the Moorish Science Temple, and then answer your own question. See, truth is uncomfortable, Dr. Naila, and I understand that it is.
Somebody wants to know how do we correct it if we filled out the census.
Well, it's called rebuttal.
Rebuttal?
Rescission of signature and rebuttal. Now, isn't it back to learning to write writs?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Isn't it back to us being active on a political, civic platform? Why is the question asked? Because it is already known that we have no civic platform to make a response or rebut anything. Then we keep signing things, putting ourselves in a hole with no ladder. Well, hell, I was digging this hole for 5 years, and we've been digging this hole forever. And everybody else out there, they're having fun. When you're digging the hole, did you take a ladder down there with you? Well, no, nobody told us. Well, didn't common sense kind of tell you when you dig a hole and dig it over your head, you're going to have difficulty getting out? See, we keep digging holes with no shovel, with no ladders. That's what our problem is, which means we keep signing stuff without understanding contract law. We keep signing instruments without doing research on what that instrument really is. We keep assuming these people are our government when they're a private foreign corporation under occupational international law.
I'm not sure what paper claim means by this, but if they're talking about with regard to the census or just in general, is there a way to correct my ignorance?
Study. That's why we do what we do here at the House of Reawakening Minds, to try to help in mitigating this corrupt condition that exists amongst our people and that has promoted and institutionalized the mental servitude and slavery and peonage that exists in our community. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is what's going to reverse this. When you gain knowledge, you will stop supporting things that injure you. When you gain knowledge, you'll stop sticking your finger in the furnace and saying, how do we stick our finger in the furnace without getting burned? By not sticking your finger in the furnace. How do we stop being surety for the debt of the foreign United States corporation company, and our communities keep getting gentrified and they keep stealing our inheritances from our grandmother, and the state always takes it under wardship tenure? Stop saying that you're a U.S. citizen, none of which you ever were. Stop volunteering into BS. How come we keep stinking? Because you keep volunteering to be bullshit.
This paper claim says, sure wish I would have had this info months ago. I'm over here signing away like a jackass. Oh, the shame.
Almost.
I don't know. So do you contact the Census Bureau and say, I want to
See, this is what on such and such. Now, even what they do to you for something that's minor as a record of your phone calls on the phones that people have every day, they got a record of your location, the duration of your conversations, who you talk to, and even the pop-up ads that came up on your phone. So here comes this pale-faced European, and then some persons calling themselves Negroes that come up on your step, knock on your door, and ask you to tell them who's in the house, what their ages is, male or female, and sometimes a little bit more information, and you start running your mouth. And what you did just volunteer yourself as stock and didn't know it because you don't know what a census is, which means you don't sign stuff you don't know. Anything that you sign, quote, everybody listening, please, 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 please. Anything or any instrumentality that you place your autograph on in law all over the world is known as a negotiable instrument. Negotiable instruments can be monetized. Translation, bond. Bond, debt. What else we need to talk about? It's a benefit. Why do you think they spend so much time trying to get you to sign their beneficiary papers? It benefits them.
That's right.
It ain't going to benefit you, I guarantee you that. You must sign this. The law says you must sign yourself as surety to back the United States corporation debt that's registered in Austria that went bankrupt again. Duh.
Somebody was asking, and I think I went over it, but they basically were asking, should they protect they have an invention, and I guess they're wanting to know if they should go through the United States.
Are we back to jurisdiction?
Yeah, how they should.
Yeah, but I'm just.
A couple people say trust, put it in your trust.
Well, that's how long we've been telling people that. Let's go back to this now. Let's go back to this. What they just said, right? Now look at this. Number 14. This is the Senate document 43, 73rd Congress, first session. You own no property under the United States democracy. Slaves cannot own property. Read carefully the deed to the property that you have been duped into thinking is yours. You will note that you are listed as a tenant on the misrepresented documents. Senate document 43, 73rd Congress, first session. You need to know something else? Do you understand what I'm saying, Dr. Naila? We do things by the day, and the simple things that are documented, our people aren't even made aware of. Then we constantly become victims. Then we want to march all over the place like fools and talk about prejudice. Please support the House of Reawakening Minds. Give with Dr. Naila, and those of you, you can send for the flash drives. And what we're going to do, we're going to put this on the flash drive too, and make sure it's updated. And there you go. And get grounded. Yeah, it's like, this is like an educational horror story with our people. That these things, these are things, Dr. Naila, is it not true? These are things our people deal with every day in their everyday lives and don't even know the foundation of it.
Because these things aren't taught. And then,
well, good. If they're so spiritual, look at this. Our people always talking about, our spiritual and shit. And I was praying, I was talking to the Lord yesterday. I mean, y'all got all this going on. How's this stuff slip? How does stuff keep slipping past you? You march all over the place all the daggone time. Raise thousands of fiat and funds, following behind people marching all over the place, asking for a remedy, asking to be recognized, and don't even look at the foundations of the rules of order that you're acting in. Get screwed, get taken advantage of, and then rather than looking at the fraud of it, talk about this racism and prejudice, I want to be a part of this and part of that. And then you selling yourself or volunteering yourself into a jurisdiction in which you do not belong. And then getting upset about the consequence. What we're sharing here is documented, commonly known information among other people. It just hasn't been shared with people who are designated as dead, called Black people and people of color. Why? Because they're not nationals. So international law and international information is not shared with them because they themselves are the stock. And nobody wants to tell them to the face, you're the stock, you're the surety. We're trying to interrupt these servitude operations that have been inculcated and operative on our land for a couple hundred years. It must be ended, but you can't keep volunteering into servitude and wanting the benefit of a allodial activity. They don't go together, they're opposites. You know better, you do better. Now, in reference to those who happen to read the letter, civil orders from Pope Francis to Barack H. Obama, 2014-2015, here we have the elements of ecclesiastical law, volume 1, sections 53 to 54, quote unquote, the Pope of Rome can abolish any law in the United States. Why? Because the corporation belongs to the Pope. And so while our people are sitting around talking about, well, for the country, I'm serving my country, signing the census. You just agreed to be their stock. Now you're complaining because you're being abused. Well, what do you think they claimed ownership for? That's Unam Sanctum. That's Unam Sanctum operations. Well, nobody told us. They told you about Jesus and stuff. They told you about the Romans murdering him. How come they didn't tell you this? That the people with hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass, copper-colored people was being lynched by Romans. Duh. It's sometimes you must imagine how some people look at the people here for the sake or in consideration of some things that are so obvious before even a child have been and are being ignored by adults who are suffering severely, and their families are being destroyed. Their relationships, personal relationships, are dead and being destroyed. And members of the Roman Curia under the foreign military operations called the IRS are robbing them by the day. And they're talking about filling out a census to agree to it. Then asking, well, how do we stop getting screwed? How about first removing the screw, then the screwdriver? Like, duh. We're interesting. Very interesting. Let me give you all another one. Number 17. And this is Pettleford, Fay and Company versus the mayor and aldermen of the city of Savannah, Georgia. And this is 438-520. And this is a court decision. You cannot use the United States Constitution to defend yourself because you're not a party to it. So what happens when these people keep going around talking about their constitutional rights? And then they keep getting screwed. And they're not a part. Was no Negroes, no part of no United States Constitution. Moors were, because it came from honestly Confederation law that you call Iroquois. And it is a designation under treaty operations, whereas it is the foundation for equity and operations for trade and limited jurisdictional operations of foreign Europeans operating at Morocco, i.e. North America. It's an instrument that limits their delegated powers of operation, doesn't give any rights to any damn body. However, in harmony with their constitution, they're obligated to the treaties, which is the supreme law of the land. How come they don't tell you that? Because that's exactly what that means. That means if you're not a party of treaties and international law, you can't use no constitution. That's why they don't have rights, because they keep claiming to be black. Ain't no such people and no such nation made any treaties or international law anywhere on planet Earth, nor some nation with some green or purple flag talking about people of color. Get over the ego and start dealing with intelligence. Honor your mothers and fathers. They are the ones who set up the laws. Then you can enforce the laws of the land. It's called Aboriginal title. It's not opinion, it's a fact. Don't get mad, get wise. Don't get emotional, get wiser.
Here's a question that says, when, wait a minute, it disappeared. It's moving so fast. Listen, conversation, on phrases. Who grants?
We'll give you another one. Number 16, Treaty of Versailles, July 16, 1782. Treaty of Peace, 8 Statute, Section 80. The King of England financially backed both sides of the American Revolutionary War. Did you know that? Did they tell you that in school? Then you wonder why your ass is being kicked now. Ask them people that marching you around talking about Black Lives Matter to tell you this. And tell you that not only are you they're wasting your time, they're misdirecting you and putting you in harm's way.
They was asked, how do you buy a house with an allodial title, using the allodial title?
All right, now it's called putting in things in context. So if it's an allodial title, what are you buying? And does an allodial right require buying any damn thing? You see how things are put together when people really don't understand? And I accept the question because it's valid. But this is back to day one. You know how like a lot of times when we're talking, Dr. Natalie, and we redundantly go over certain things, and then a year later we'll do the same thing again under another title to come at another angle to tell them, because the truth don't change. The concept hasn't arrived on us. You pay under feudal law. On allodial law or right, it's an inheritance. Inheritance is not taxable. You don't buy your inheritance, and you don't sell it. It is even understanding what you're talking about. It's not a condemnation. Is people don't even understand. Do you But please, you all, go over some of these things that we're telling you and do some reference research. And get with Dr. Naila, and help yourself. Just help yourself, please. Because we can share. We can't make you know. You have to be interested enough in your liberation to do the work and the research that goes along with it, and taking the responsibility and participate in the activities that are necessary on a civic forum to bring remedy to your problems for lack of a state and for the restoration of your estates, and even knowing what your estate is and that you even have one. Because you do, but you didn't know.
I just put a suggestion for you all to check out. I know a lot of you know Karimio. I don't know how to say his whole appellation, but it's Karimio, AHAU on YouTube. He does a lot of historical research. He's like a Dane Calloway on steroids.
Good.
His stuff is 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours long. He's got like volumes and volumes of research. So,
and even those who look at Dane, if they just look at the information that he's sharing, they would recognize that their concept of how to look at things, that they ain't supposed to be signing no damn census. This is, Dr. Naila, this is where our people really don't know what diversity of nationality is. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. They don't know its function. Put it this way. You know how like some people can have, how many Moors going to the Moor Science Temple got nationalized and don't understand status and a state goes with it? And if you ask them to start talking about a prayer or belief or chapter of the Quran or the Bible and be totally off the mark of a state. And if you talk a state, they think that you're talking against their religion. And it is no different than our current conversation where people are, this is what's happening. And this is constant, even with a lot of questions coming, because they're valid questions. However, people are asking estate questions and not understanding estate. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Whether they're talking about buying.
Like once you claim your property.
It doesn't happen like that.
How do you keep with the Lodi? How do you keep the colonizers
off? So now, aren't you going back to treaty? Aren't you going back to estate and trust? See, the way they've been doing it, now let's go back to our earlier conversation. How have they been stealing or cheating our people's estates? Misclassifying our people, right? Mm-hmm. Then claiming them as U.S. citizens, and our people think it means a benefit. They don't know it means stock. Then making a bond on them, selling it on the world market as a derivative, and you are now the surety for any debts that they create. That's exactly what that is. That's not an opinion. That's exactly what's going on. Then if it's questioned, not unlike like you were saying, Lamont was telling you, the magistrate said, you volunteered. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But let's look at our people always talking about they're so spiritual. And you give them basic facts that a child could understand without, if they didn't have an agenda, and adults have the most difficult time to rationalize. It's really interesting. Meaning that if you put before a child, the average child, right, different colors in a palette of primary colors and things like that, or say little blocks, one with a letter on it and one with say objects on it, like a boat or a car. Even though children may say humorous things, they usually can make the distinction. It's interesting that adults have problems with that, even knowing the difference between buying or owning and a tenant. Allodial and feudal, which are opposites. And it takes place every day in all your affairs. You understand where I'm coming from with that? That the difficulty for them to know better.
Well, we come to the end of the road.
Anyway, so you get with Dr. G.
Don't everybody send me no request for that right
no,
away.
No, not right
is
away.
Not the
It'll
PDF
be.
Thingy. No,
It
look, because at the end of the
yeah,
day,
explain yourself, because I know they're gonna beat you up.
no, because you Gracie, you putting that on me. We have to figure out how to get
See,
it
because
from that paper.
it's like this.
Do not.
Yes. This is later. Say next month. Give us
when
time.
it's available, I will make the announcement.
Yes.
Do not email me for that. I will let you know.
Yeah.
Please.
But anyway, get grounded in because this is basic. Listen, this is basic 3rd grade civic knowledge. Truthfully. And definitely elementary and junior high school knowledge. Not college, not university, elementary school level knowledge to show you how far you have been deliberately, not accidentally, kicked behind the 8 ball. Some of the stuff may be, revolutionary, or a great revolution or revelation to some of you. This is basic civics. We need to get over our egos and accept that we've been cheated, because we have, and we're suffering from it. It's just that we're in such a serious condition right now that they're literally killing people off under the guise of viruses and other things like that, so that they don't have to answer up to the treaties that they have violated, and that they have created so much destruction around the world that nations of the world have frozen up the credit windows and frozen up the trade windows. And that's a lot of what's really going on, that they're covering up with this virus claim and other things. Not that those things aren't weaponized biological warfare, because they actually are. But people are looking at, I was walking down the street and I was getting ready to go to the store over here. And just as soon as I went and opened up the door, a virus locked the door. And I was pushing the door, and COVID wouldn't let the door open. My cousin took his dog for a walk. And he had to take the dog to the vet last night. You want to know why? The dog ran across the street, but it was a red light, and he got hit. Boy, that was a COVID car. Our people really sometimes demonstrate they're not very bright. However, we got to get over this. We got to get basic and fundamental civics and how things really work. Anyway, thank you for sharing this evening with us. And like I said, we had a lot to do and a lot of things to support. And in the future, I'm going to bring a couple of cases on allodial title claims, that some which are presently taking place, etc., and share with you to get you in the proper state of mind. So support the House of Reawakening Minds, because the House of Reawakening Minds supports you. Thank you. Have a grand evening.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back with next week. And Brother Abdullah, Brother Shem Malachi, they will be on next week. The following week, we will have Grand Sheik returning on our third Friday. But on Tuesday, make sure you tune in to Office Hours with Dr. G right here on this channel, when my guest will be Red Pill and Blue Pill. So don't want to miss that. And the following week with Brother Sabir Bey. So you're going to want to tune in and to those shows. We thank you so much. We do thank you for your support. We thank you. Visit our Cash App. Those of you who already have sent in a donation, thank you very much. Those of you who never have, your support would be very much appreciated. I think that's all I really need to say, and I do appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.
This is on your desk. I'm gonna leave it right there.